Hi, everybody. My name is Nancy Pinchev, and today I'm going to be talking to you about promoting STEM engagement in an online learning environment. Online learning has been a challenge for a lot of us, and we're learning things differently and we're teaching things differently. And sometimes the engagement is right there, and sometimes we're lacking it. So, this I'm hoping is going to help you out with promoting that engagement with your STEM. And just a warning, I have a cough drop in. So, if you hear something or you see it, that's what it is. All right. So, let's start out by talking about what is STEM. STEM means a lot of things to a lot of different people. A lot of people have different definitions, but basically, this is what STEM is. STEM is where you take science, technology, engineering, and math, and you put it all together. You put some of that observation and making predictions in science. You take the technology tools that kids are using to showcase what they're learning or to research more and to find more information. You take the building and the problem solving of engineering, and then you take in some math with patterning, not just simple addition and subtraction, but also putting in word problems with numbers and shapes and sizes and volume. And you put it all together to make STEM. It's an interdisciplinary approach, and it makes the kids see things and see how they're connected and make those connections beyond just what it says on page 52 of their math book, but what they're figuring it out all together by combining all of these topics. Now, you may have heard it called STEAM. I prefer STEAM because STEAM includes the arts. And I think in life, everything is better with art, whether that art is drawing or music or theater. Everything can be better with arts. You may also have seen it called STREAM. A lot of people are putting different things in with the STEM to make it fit every topic. So, STREAM, the R could stand for robots, but to me, robots are already included in technology. It could also be including reading. But again, reading is included naturally in each one of these topics to me. So STEM is a great way to make sure everything is included, that everything flows naturally, and that connections are made. So I have an article here for you about why STEAM and reading go hand in hand. Reading is very important, and reading can get kids excited. And it doesn't matter if you are 2 or 22. It doesn't matter if you are 8 years old or in 8th grade. Everybody loves to be read to. And while STEM takes in the technology aspect where you can read online, where you can find things out, there also needs to be reading where you sit down with a book and you read, or you sit down with a magazine and you read informational texts, literature. All of it combines to make a strong literacy environment. I have for you some of my favorite books I want to share. So I love these books. They're Andrea Beatty books. They started off with Iggy Peck, architect, and his teacher, Miss Lila Greer. And then there's also Ada Twist, scientist, which is becoming a TV show on PBS. Look out for it. There's Sophia Valdez, future Prez. And then again, one of my favorites, Rosie Revere, engineer. And in this book, Rosie Revere, like some of the others that Andrea Beatty has written, Rosie has a problem. She's an inventor. She loves to make things. She makes something and people laughed at her because it didn't work. And so she put it away and she wouldn't make any more. And then her great aunt comes to visit. And her great aunt has always wanted to fly. And so Rosie shows her the flying machine she's creating. And it flies and then it crashes. And Rosie is so embarrassed. She's like, oh, gosh, I'm never going to do this again. And her great aunt says, hey, but before you crashed, you flew. And that's amazing. So it gives Rosie that that she needs to keep going. And you see how Rosie Revere, engineer, wears this bandana on her head? Anytime I'm reading a book to my students, I am going to include some visual connection to the book just because they're going to spend time looking for it and trying to figure out what I've hidden for them, like an Easter egg kind of thing. So I have my own bandana that I wear when I read these books because the kids are all included in all the books. So I wear my bandana and the kids go, "Oh, you're matching. You're like," and yes, I am. Well, I have been working for a couple of years now on a resource of STEM and literacy that I wanted to share with you as well. So I have here in the science, I have I have a bunch of different books and activities for STEM and science and literacy. I have technology books, engineering, arts, math, and then some other things that go along with it too. So one of my favorite activities is to melt crayons to make art. There's lots of different ways that you can do this. But before I do it, I read to the students My Crayons Talk. Now, a couple of weeks ago, after I gave a STEM and literacy presentation, someone sent me 2 more books, The Crayon Man, The True Story of the Invention of Crayola Crayons, and The Day the Crayons Quit. And so all of 3 of those could be great books that you read before you do this STEM activity. Why do this? Because it engages students. It gets students excited. They start thinking about what you're talking about and what you're sharing with them, and then they want to do it. It's super exciting for them to then get to that hands-on part. That's the engaging. You're engaging them by getting them to the hands-on. So I show them my crayons, and I showed them some materials like a flashlight, a hot plate, like a little griddle, a hair dryer, and a halogen lamp because they get a little bit hotter than a flashlight. And we make a hypothesis. What do we think is going to work to melt the crayons? And then I do it for them, and I show them the different things that I have. And then we figure out, you know what? The hair dryer works the best. And then I also show them like the wax paper with crayon pieces and iron and how you can do that. It just depends on how you want to make your art. But everybody usually has access to a hair dryer. So they'll go grab their hair dryers and they'll come back and join us, and they'll grab a crayon and they'll see if they can melt their crayon. And sometimes within our time frame, we can melt a lot, and sometimes we can melt a little. But it's science, and we're learning what's going to work. We make our hypothesis, we test it out, and we look at our results. And we find that some people's results are different than others because some people's hair dryers are hotter, or maybe they blow harder, or maybe it's depending on the crayons that we had. We learn about science through art and playing around. And it's fun, and it's learning. And so kids are super engaged with me when we're doing these kind of projects. I also found another way that I can get kids excited when I'm reading this book is Rosie Revere Engineer has been recorded by an astronaut on the International Space Station. She's floating as she's reading the story. The kids freak out. They're like, she's in space right now. And we watch her read the book. There are lots of other books on storyonline.net and other places on YouTube that you can find where famous people read stories, and that gets kids engaged as well. It'll get those high schoolers, those jaded high schoolers will go, she's in space? She's reading that book in space? And then even when they don't mean to, they still get excited about it because it's different. So literacy and STEM are great. So maker spaces and literacy. Let's go to our maker space. A maker space is basically just a way to make what you have learned. So when you're doing a maker space in STEM, you give students an opportunity to create based on what they've learned in their class. Let's say they've been learning about maps and social studies. They go to the makerspace and they make something to teach about maps. Maybe they grab a balloon, they blow it up, they make a model of the earth, they put the map on there, and they teach about the parts. Maybe they write a play about maps and globes. Maybe they create a map of their world that they want to have, and they put everything that they need on their map. Maybe they do a robotics and map activity. They code the robot to move along the map and go along the streets to get to where they need to be. They need to go left. They need to go right. They need to go 3 inches. They need to go 10 inches. They need to go 4 feet. You figure it out. It includes all of that STEM with the makerspace and excitement. Okay. So let me tell you about a couple of makerspace activities that we do with our middle school and our lower school. In middle school, we have an arcade that students make every year. It's a cardboard arcade. Starts off pretty simple. The kids make it out of cardboard, and then the teacher shows them a Makey or an Arduino kit, and they go, what could you do with this? And then suddenly kids are upping their level. They're including a timer. They're including a coin operation system. They're including a scoreboard. They're including a touch system that when you touch it, it gives you points. And they take their arcade to the next level through their makerspace. In fourth grade, we had a project with Florida history. That's the year that you learn about Florida, about history in Florida. So they are creating an amusement park, and they have to decide what part of the amusement park do they want to make. Do they want to make a ride? Do they want to make the characters that walk around teaching people? Do they want to make a dinner theater? Do they want to make an AR VR ride? Do they want to make a whole theater presentation? Are they going to have singing and dancing? What are they going to do to teach people? If they're doing it in a ride, are they teaching them while they're waiting in line? And let's say the character walks through the line and teaches them. What if you have a person who's hard of hearing and can't hear what the character's saying? They need to read lips and they need to have sign language. So maybe you have to add a visual component with technology, with TVs that are playing the same information. How are you going to make the ride stop to ask the questions and then move on? What happens if they get it wrong? Are they going to get dumped off the ride? We had some amazing things that were created by fourth graders to teach about Florida history. And we then shared it with their families who went, wait, what? That's amazing. How did you come up with that? And I said, it wasn't me. It was all about them. I just gave them the recycling to do it with. And then we have PBL and STEM. So this article about Edutopia talks about how PBL and STEM are a natural fit. Because in PBL, you solve real world problems. And in STEM, you have real world problems. Maybe you have a pond near your school where the fish are dying. Maybe you need to find out why. Through PBL and STEM, you find out why. You find out what needs to be done to make it a better living environment. And then you do it. Right now in Biscayne Bay here in Florida, we have a lot of fish and a lot of animals in the oceans that are dying right there in that area. So a lot of schools in that area are trying to figure out why it's happening. What can we do to try to solve it? And just because you're online doesn't mean you can't do these activities. You can research online. You can create petitions online. You can create videos to show the problem and talk about solutions online. Even if you're not in person, you can still do these activities online. Flipgrid is a great tool to help gather information. Padlet's a great tool to help put all of your work together in one place. You have Google stuff. You have Adobe Spark. Lots of ways that you can gather and create and present what you're learning, and you don't have to be in one same space to do it. You allow students to explore, they come back and tell you what they've learned, they get excited about it, and you go farther. Okay, so let me tell you about some of the PBL projects that we've done. We had a first grade playground is for ECE through first grade, and they were about to remove that playground over the summer. So the first grade teachers went to the students and they said, hey, they're taking out the playground. What do you think? And they go, why are they taking it out? Well, it had bark on the bottom, on the ground for the cushion. And they had a student who was allergic to the bark, so we couldn't use it anymore because that kid couldn't go on the playground. Well, that's not fair that they can't go on the playground. We need something else. So what do you think we can use? What do you think we're going to do? What do you think they're going to put there? They actually brought the playground engineer in to talk to the students and show them what some of the options were and to talk about something that they could do and possibly designs that they might use and to show them what was available to put in. And then the nurse came in and talked to them about the environmental issues that might cause a student to be allergic to the bark or to whatever materials they might use, and to help them find out what materials would be better than what we were already using. And then one of the kids said, hey, my dad is a landscape architect. He designs landscapes to go in places. Maybe he could come and talk to us about the plants and trees and stuff. So he came in and they learned about that. And another kid said, hey, my grandma's an engineer. I wonder if she could come in. So she came in and she showed them tools that engineers and architects use, like rulers and compass and protractor and the blueprint pages. And she gave each kid their own engineering pack so they could measure and do all of that stuff. So they started designing, and then they called the playground engineer and they said, hey, we want to have a water slide. And he goes, oh, I don't think you're going to have enough room for a water slide in your space, because a water slide needs this much room. And they go, oh, well, how big is our space? He goes, I don't know. What do you think? And they go outside and they started measuring it. And you would see for days, first grade classes out there measuring the playground to see how big it was. And then it wasn't doing math from a page in the book. It was doing math that meant something to them. So they measured it out. They went, oh, that's not going to work. But let's see. We also need to make sure that the soccer and the basketball area is not going to mess up where people are playing on the swings or on the slides, because the ball might hurt them. So they started looking at where things go and how to keep people safe. And then they made their designs. And then they came to my room, to the makerspace, and they created a model. And one of the groups even said, hey, our teacher can't go outside without a hat on. We need a covered area where she can sit to watch us, because the sun is not safe for her. So they even made different things before their teachers, depending on who their teacher was, what they thought their teacher might need on the playground too. And then they invited all the parents and the playground engineer and the principal and the school board to come in and see it. And everybody was amazed. And the parents said, when did you do this? And they said, in class. It wasn't an at-home project. It was an in-class project. And the parents were amazed, and the students were amazed at each other's work too. In 3rd grade and 10th grade, we have a history project where they find something out about a person and their family that's super cool, and they create maybe a game or a video or a recipe book or a timeline of their life, and they share it. Well, because it happens in 3rd grade and 10th grade, the 10th graders come in and help the 3rd graders with their project, because it happens after theirs. But when you're in remote school, how does that work? Well, we set up a Flipgrid. And the students would say, in 3rd grade would say, here's what I'm thinking of. And their partner in 10th grade would say, that's a great idea. Have you thought about this? Or you did a really good job giving your presentation. Are you practicing your eye contact? Because you know you're supposed to look at the people that you're talking to. And so they helped each other out. The 10th grader learned how to give feedback and learn how to communicate with people. And the 3rd grader learned how to find out how to make their project even better. So how do you get increased engagement in STEM in remote learning? You make it personal. You figure out how to connect with that student and what that student's going to love to do. You make it self-directed. The kid is in charge. And yes, it's remote learning, and it makes it a little bit harder because you're remotely talking to them. But you set up office hours so that you're there if they need help outside of class. You're there if they need help inside of class. You can put them into small groups using breakout rooms, or you can put them into a Flipgrid together to talk and share their ideas. And you share those results widely. You don't keep it just in your class. When a kid knows that they're sharing something with the world, they're going to do an even better job, right? So you get that increased engagement in remote learning by making it personal, self-directed, and you share the results. You keep them excited, you get them into it, and they will stay into it. All right, my friends, thank you for joining me today. I hope you have a great learning experience.